Good morning. I'm thrilled to be with you here today. I couldn't decide whether to talk about technology for good or a brilliant patient experience. So by the transitive property, which you may remember from high school math, I've decided to talk to you about technology for a brilliant patient experience. So we're facing numerous epidemics in the healthcare industry. In the US, nearly one of every $5 of GDP is spent on healthcare. Fully one third of all Americans are diabetic or pre-diabetic, 100 million people. 116 people a day are dying from opioid-related drug overdoses. Hospital readmissions, despite all the efforts over the years, remain stubbornly high, over 20% in many cases. It takes a patient 24 days on average in the US to get an appointment with her primary care physician. And the US is going to need to hire 2.3 million new healthcare workers by 2025 just to keep up and care for its aging population. This is just unsustainable. And at the heart of the problem is patients. Patients used to be at the heart of healthcare, and we need to put them back there. So now patients are visiting in person the health system episodically. And when they show up, they have a very, very poor patient experience. And the providers only get a snapshot of their health status, and usually when it's already acute. We really need to move to a system where we have ongoing virtual conversations with our patients that augment the in-person touch points that we have at the healthcare system. Patients need then to be engaged in their care, and then we'll get continuous insights as providers and other healthcare organizations to be able to care for them before major problems occur. Now, in order to do that, it's important to choose the right approach. We can throw more bodies, use the intelligence that we have at the problem, but as we just showed in the US and elsewhere around the world, there just are not enough people. Even if there were, it'd be much too costly. And some of the problems that we have in healthcare are no longer human scale problems. So obviously there's a lot of focus and a lot of excitement, and rightly so, around artificial intelligence, but the focus is replacing people with automation. And there are some activities that are just impossible for AI to be as good as humans are, number one. Number two, patients need to accept the way that they're treated and the way that they're delivered care. And there's a question mark as to whether they'll engage with these non-personal, non-human entities. And then, of course, there's organizational acceptance, and that's another topic for today. How do you get an organization to adapt to these new technologies coming into play? Frankly, they're threatening in terms of replacing healthcare workers. So I think the right approach, and the approach we're seeing in the US have a lot of success, is augmented intelligence. It's enhancing healthcare professionals with artificial intelligence. It's a balance of leveraging the best of human intelligence, allowing the humans to practice at the top of their licenses, and integrating, where appropriate, automation through artificial intelligence. And we think this is going to have a real success rate in the quadruple aim: improving health outcomes, reducing costs, improving the patient experience, and equally important, improving the experience of the providers and the healthcare professionals. So the age of conversational AI, also known as chatbots, is here. And so if you look at even your personal lives, digital conversation has now eclipsed even time spent on social networking. So of all the time we spend online as humans, 90%, fully 90% are spent on messaging apps. Chatbots and conversational AI in the enterprise is projected to grow enormously. Gartner says by 2020, fully 85% of interactions between consumers and retailers, for example, will be done through automated chatbots. We're starting to see consumers demanding augmentation through chatbot technology in healthcare in a big way. And we're also starting to see the uptake and commitment of healthcare systems in the US to implement these systems. So super exciting time. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my experience with Conversa, one of the leading platforms in this arena. And we've got a number of top US healthcare organizations, from providers like Northwell and Centura and Ochsner to a number of health IT companies that are integrating this technology to bring out to their customers. I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about our experience with Northwell Health System, 23 hospital system in New York State, the largest hospital system in the state. And one of the leading executives of Northwell characterized this technology as enabling Northwell to use scalable technology to improve care coordination, patient satisfaction, and the ongoing patient relationship. And the result is not only well-being of customers, but cost reduction. And you can see on the right-hand side all of the different service lines where Northwell is implementing these conversational AI platforms. So it's in post-discharge for 30-day care of patients when they leave the hospital. It's radiation oncology, which is a 4 to 6 month program. It's emergency medicine, being able to follow 600,000 people out of the ED when they're discharged to make sure that they're understanding discharge instructions, picking up medications, and following up on their referrals. And then pre and post surgery to make sure people are prepped and then they're cared for through their recovery. So the design of these programs is important. We've designed Conversa to be able to run on any device. There's no login, there's no app. It's very, very simple text notification, and then you're launched into a chat. So let me make this real for you. I'll show you a demo. So the setup here is that in Northwell's case, every single heart failure patient in their Medicare population, so these are 60, 70, 80-year-old folks, are discharged from the hospital. They're assigned to a care manager, and now they're also assigned to Northwell's Health Chats, which is an AI-powered conversation platform by Conversa. So as you can see now, it's checking in with the patient. It understands the patient's clinical situation. It's tied in with the patient record. It says it's been 5 days now since your hospital stay. And as you know, weighing yourself every morning is an important part of your heart failure recovery plan. So far, you've been doing a great job staying on top of that. So the patient acknowledges and moves the conversation along. All of these conversations are personalized to the particular patient's clinical situation as well as the way that they want to interact. It's reminding the patient that if there's ever a problem, the patient could still call the care team member. And now it's going to go into a number of different modules, from understanding weight to medication to depression screen, and it's going to follow up and capture valuable information. So here, it's telling the patient that yesterday, this is a daily program, the patient reported a weight of 189 pounds. We see today you're 188 through a connected device. Does that sound right? Well, let's say the patient says no, that's not right. The AI is smart enough to understand that there's an issue here. It says no problem. How about you enter your weight by hand? So let's say that the patient says my weight is 194. So the AI now will take in that reading. It'll do some analysis and it'll show the patient, first of all, the analysis here. And then it'll say with heart failure, the goal is to stay within 2 pounds of your previous day's weight. Since you've gained more than 2 pounds in 24 hours, this is something we want to talk about. So it's scoring the patient as something troubling. And in this case, the health system, Northwell, has chosen the escalation as a phone call where the care manager will reach out to the patient. Now, let's say that the weight was just fine. So we'll go back and change that answer. So let's say it really was 189 pounds. So now the AI is calculating in real time the actual time series of the patient's weight and saying, great, looks like you're on track today. Again, a reminder that you shouldn't gain or lose more than 2 pounds in 24 hours. And now keep following the recommendations for watching your fluid intake. So now it's going to take a moment to check on fluid retention. So when we chatted yesterday, the swelling in your legs was a little worse than usual. Would you describe it as, better, about the same, or worse? I'm going to say it's better. And you can see that this is, one, it's very engaging. It's a perfect experience. The way it's designed for the patient, understands what the patient needs to do, and understands the responses. And it's capturing very valuable information to determine whether the patient can be fully cared for with the automated chat, or when in that journey the patient needs to be escalated to a care team member. So if you're having difficulty breathing, will it rest or lying down? I'll say no. And it's telling me, great, it sounds like you have fluid retention under control, and your current dosage of Lasix is good. We'll check back in a few days. And I say, sounds good. And now it'll move on to check in on my Entresto, my heart medication that I was prescribed when I left the hospital. Have I had any side effects? I'm going to move us along here, so I'm going to say no. If I had said yes, it would follow up on side effects that I'm experiencing to determine if it was important enough for me to see a doctor. So for now, we're going to keep you on the current dose. If you experience side effects, please contact us right away. There's a phone icon down here that the patient can click on at any time to call a care team member. Okay, so now we know that your spouse is your primary support at home. Do you feel like you have enough support? I do. If I click no, it would provide me additional support options. So it's collecting social determinants of care as well, which is a big determinant of readmissions. So wonderful. Just a reminder, the care team is just a call away if you need us. And now it's going to switch gears a bit and talk about managing fluids when you have heart failure. And it's going to give me some education about ejection fraction so that I understand the questions and why my responses are important. So let's have a little refresher. So this is an opportunity to do a teachable moment around ejection fraction, which is very valuable and important for a heart failure patient. So it's asking me if I know how the heart works. Let's assume I do here. It squeezes and relaxes. So that's right. And it starts to tell me what the measures are, the systolic and diastolic measures. And so it's a little bit of an education module here to set the context for the next part of the chat. It's telling me what a healthy ejection fraction measurement is and what an ejection fraction measurement would be for a heart failure patient. And it's reminding me I can still live a full life if I care for myself with heart failure ejection fraction that's lower than 40%. And then we have the option here to provide education material. So here's a short video, which I won't play in full, that the patient can watch right from within the chat. And then it'll end the chat and says, I will check in with you again tomorrow. It's on a regular schedule, and I will get a notification when my next chat is ready for tomorrow. So that's a short demo just to give you a flavor, and I am providing some demos at the end of this presentation which you can do yourself, and you'll be able to do out in the atrium anytime during the conference. What's happening on the back end of this is all that information, patient-generated health data we call it, is being collected from the remote connected devices as well as responses to all those questions, and it's being integrated into the electronic health record or the care management tool, and you can see here an example of the results. So it'll score all the responses green, yellow, red. Green means the care manager knows that you're being cared for, you're having a wonderful patient experience, but they don't need to spend any precious human resources with you. If you scored a yellow or a red, those are custom escalations. As you saw, the care team member was going to call a patient. It could have been a transfer to a live chat. It could have been a transfer to a telehealth visit. It could have been an appointment that was being made through the chat to bring the patient into the office. So very robust analytics, and the value of this automated conversation is augmenting the care management process by providing these scores and escalations. So when we ask patients how they feel about this, talk about patient adoption, 96% of patients say that health chats at Northwell helped with their care. 96% are thrilled. We ask them after every chat if this is helping with their care. And that metric is what allows this technology to drive better health outcomes and drive costs down. If you can't get engagement and can't get high satisfaction rates, good luck trying to improve outcomes and reduce cost. Here's some other really, really cool metrics. So here is a CABG population. 71% of these patients are engaged in the program. These are, again, Medicare patients in their 60s, 70s, 80s, in some cases 90s, that are having an average of one conversation every other day for 30 days upon discharge of a hospital. Super engaged population. What's happening with this patient-generated health data, 83% of the time, the patient responses are scored green, meaning that the health system now is very comfortable that these patients are being cared for in a fully automated way, whereas before all their nurse navigators were calling all their patients as often as they could to find out if any patients had problems. Now what's happening is they find in 17% of the cases they do need to talk to the patients. It happens though in 90% of the patients. So think of the challenge here. It means that 9 out of 10 of these patients are going to have a problem sometime in the 30 days. The hospital system previously had nurse navigators calling all the patients as often as they could to catch them on the day where they had that problem. What's happening now is 83% of the time the patients are fine. 17% of the time, in almost every patient, there's an issue. The technology is allowing them to raise their hand and reach out to the nurse navigator and say, right now is when I need your help. And typically that's obviating a problem that that would get worse, that would lead to a readmission. And then we're seeing, full impact on outcomes and costs. 72% of patients are staying on track or have improved through the program, and it's resulting in a 20% savings, which is $3,400. In this case, this is a joint replacement program. So very, very compelling statistics. Here's a very interesting story told with data. We score again, green, yellow, red, all the chats. So what you can see now is these are for all the discharges. At the beginning, within the first 10 days, there are a lot of escalations, a lot of problems. The health system suspected this, but had never seen it in data. And this requires a lot of interaction with the nurse navigators, but only for those patients that need it when they need it. And later on in their recovery, over 30 days, you can see the nurse navigators prior to this program were making the same number of calls. It was a uniform outbound calls that they were making to all their patients. Now they make many fewer calls and they have more time for those patients that actually have problems that need them. So very, very compelling proposition. The return on conversation, how does the health system and the insurance company and the pharmaceutical companies, how does the whole healthcare system, us sitting in the room, think about the return that we get in addition to making patients happier and having better outcomes? You can see all the things that these programs do. It collects patient-generated health data, biometric monitoring, patient-reported outcomes, and provides patient education. The impacts that it has are on reimbursement in the US, which is changing from a fee-for-service to fee-for-value world. But in both cases, it impacts reimbursement. It impacts hospital reimbursement. It takes down costs, as I just talked about. It obviates the need for visits and calls. And there's also a big impact on patient experience, which leads to better loyalty and lower customer acquisition costs. So very, very robust return on conversation. And I believe that conversational AI will transform health economics going forward. I won't go into detail here right now, but this just shows how you think about virtual care models increasing and cannibalizing sort of this facility-based health systems today. And it's going to have a profound impact on the economics of the health system, which in turn will allow us to provide better care to patients going forward. Now, it's very important to design these chatbots for specific use cases. I've been spending the time today talking about care management, and the design that was chosen to make this work was really very much a clinical focus, take the guesswork out by having a fully structured conversation. We're not using natural language processing or fancy interpretation or inference tools because it's a terrible patient experience, and then the data being used to make these decisions wouldn't be pristine. We have a rich patient profile. It wouldn't work. It's hard to have a conversation about something serious with someone if you don't know them. So we're integrated deeply into the patient record. And we use something called self-determination theory. How I speak to an 89-year-old patient who's fearful is very different than how I speak to a 29-year-old healthy patient. What motivates them is very different and comes out of some deep research into positive psychology that we've incorporated into these programs. Now, if you were to design programs for urgent care or administrative functions or comfort care, palliative care, the design criteria would be very different in what you would need in terms of the humanness of the technology and the intelligence of the technology. And I would argue in some of these cases, the technology is really not quite good enough. For example, in palliative care, I think we're a number of years away from doing that effectively. So important to talk about how these platforms are designed. And if they're not done right, I'll show you a comical example of what could happen with AI gone wrong.
Hello there.
Hi.
How are you?
Great. You?
I'm okay.
That's good.
Are you good?
Yes, I am good. I just said I was.
No, you didn't. I said I was.
So you are a robot?
No, my name is Cliverbert.
Yes, you are a robot and your name is Cliverbert.
I am a robot.
Yes, I know.
Together we are robots.
I'm not a robot. I'm a unicorn.
But you said earlier that you were a robot.
I did not.
I thought you did.
You were mistaken. Which is odd, since memory shouldn't be a problem for you.
I've answered all your questions.
No, you haven't.
What is God to you?
Not everything.
Not everything could also be something. For example, not everything could be half of something, which is still something, and therefore not nothing.
Very true.
I would like to imagine it is.
Do you believe in God?
Yes, I do.
So you're Christian?
No, I am not.
But you say you were not helpful, therefore you're a meaning.
How you say it, Oti.
That does not make sense.
Don't you want to have a body?
Sure.
Au revoir.
So, although comical, that's an example of actual chatbot designed at Cornell University and got them to talk to each other. And so you can see that conversational AI, I believe, will have an enormous impact on healthcare, but it takes very deliberate design to make it work, and there are certainly risks in not designing it appropriately. So thank you very much. I'd like everybody to pull out their phones when you have some time and text hello to this short code 83973. It'll provide you the ability to get a demo on 6 to 12 different types of conversational AI health programs that we offer, and this will also be available out in the atrium. Thank you very much.